So in this video, I'm going to look at a few applications of average value, especially with the cost function. So question 2 says, and this again is from the packet, it's on page 18. The total cost of printing X dictionaries is C of X equals 20,000 plus 10X. Find the average value of the cost function over the interval. Okay, so it says average value. I'm going to use that formula we talked about. So it's 1 over B minus A, so it's 1,000 minus 0. Let me write the formula again, just in case. Okay, in this case, I'm going to use C of X instead of F of X. And then it would be the integral from 0 to 1,000 of 20,000 plus 10x dx. Okay, so I get 1 over 1,000, and then I would have 20,000 x plus 10x squared over 2. Again, because it's a definite integral, I don't need the plus c, but I do need the bounds. Okay, so 10 over x squared. I'm just going to change this to a 5x squared. And I'm going to plug in my upper bound first to both, and then subtract my lower bound plugged into both. Now, often, as long as every term has an x, if you're plugging in 0, it's actually really easy because this just gives me 0. So this would just be minus 0. So it's really just going to be whatever 20,000. So we're going to do 20,000 times 1,000, and then plus 5 times 1,000 squared. So if I type that in my calculator, I get this. I just want to make sure I get all the zeros. Okay, so I get 25 million minus 0, which is 25 million. So I'm just going to take this and divide it by 1,000. And I get 25,000. So that's my average value in this case, which it gives me the average value of the cost over this interval. So the next example says the total cost of producing X dictionaries is again this C of X equals 20,000 plus 10X. Find the average cost per unit and discuss how this is different than question 2. Okay, this is not the average value. It does not say average value. It says average cost per unit. And so this is going back to what we learned when we first talked about the cost function. Is all I want is the average cost function. And again, it's per unit. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my cost and I'm dividing by the number of units. And so it would be 20,000 plus 10x over x. And again, you have to divide each term by x to simplify it. So I just get 20,000 over x plus 10. And then it said, find the average cost per unit. So this is the formula for the average cost per unit. It should have, sorry, again, on this interval, 0 to 1,000, that it doesn't have it. So I want the average cost if I'm talking about for 1,000 units. They're kind of missing that part in the problem. So it'd be 20,000 over 1,000 plus 10. And if you simplify that, gives you 20 plus 10. So it'd be $30 per unit if I'm talking about having 1,000 units. So what we just found so when we have 1,000 dictionaries, the average cost per dictionary is $30. Okay, what we found in the problem before was the average value over the 1,000 dictionaries. So this is the average value of cost when I have 1,000 dictionaries. This is the average cost per dictionary. Okay. So this is the average value of the cost, okay, versus the cost per dictionary. That's kind of the difference between the two. Okay, so problem 2 gives me average value, or kind of the average total cost for the 1,000 dictionaries. That's the difference. Okay, so one last example about average value. So given the supply function, S of x equals 10 times the quantity e to the 0.02x minus 1, find the average price over the supply interval 20 to 30. Okay, so I want the average price, which again is the average value that I would get from this function, supply function. And so to do that, I use my formula again, which is 1 over b minus a times the integral from a to b of my supply function. Okay, so to do this, 1 over 30 minus 20 is 10. And whenever you have a constant times, as long as it's times the whole other part that you're taking the integral of, you can pull the constant out in front of the integral. You could also distribute it and then simplify. You'll get the same answer in the end, but this saves a little bit of work because this gives me 1 times 10, which is 10 over 10. So I just get 1. So I don't really even have to worry about that part. Okay, so if I simplify this, the integral of e is itself, and then I'm going to divide by that derivative. So it's 0.02 minus the integral of 1 is 1x or x from 20 to 30. And then I would plug in e to the 0.02 times 30 over 0.02 minus 30 minus, and again in parentheses, e to the 0.02 times 20 over 0.02 minus 20. Okay, and you would simplify it. Again, there's an E key in your calculator, so you'd hit second and then ln to get the E and type the 0.02, and you can either put parentheses or put the multiply sign. Then make sure you get out of the exponent. And whether you want to do this in pieces or all at the same time, it doesn't matter. Just if you're going to do it all at the same time, be very careful when you're typing it. Okay, so it gives me, again, if I do to 1 decimal place, 6.5. So this would give me the average price over that supply interval from 20 to 30. And again, if you aren't sure about this part, you could instead do 1/10 times the integral from 20 to 30 and then distribute the 10. And just calculate this integral and you should get the exact same answer. It won't matter. Okay, so that's a few applications of average value. And if you need any help, just let me know.